Hey there, welcome to Matt Teaches. Today, we're going to be discussing Reaper, a digital audio workstation, or DAW, or DAW for short, that's very powerful and very inexpensive as well. So if you're looking for a new digital audio workstation to get into making music or podcasts or anything like that, or you're looking to switch over from another digital audio workstation, this video is for you. So um, the purpose of a digital audio workstation is to be able to record and edit audio of all different kinds. So we're going to be going over all the main features that are going to be able to get you started working on this program. So to get started, we're going to see that we have our top toolbar here. We have the settings for file, edit, view, insert, item, track, options and actions, and of course help. Using these, we can adjust different settings, and it's one of the most important things when you're getting started using these programs. So I'm just going to remove these tracks just so that way we can we'll start from scratch. Okay, so this is what your session will likely look similar to when you open Reaper. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you can press Control P to go to your settings. Okay, so there's a few different things you're going to want to set up at the start. So to keep yourself organized, you're going to want to make sure all your different paths to save projects are all set up. Mine are usually set up in a template, but for now we'll just you can go to OneDrive, or you can go to I usually use my hard drive, so that'll tell where to save new projects. Okay, so make sure you do this for each one each time you create a new one, so that way you can stay organized. Okay. Next one that you want to get to know is your device. So under audio, you'll find device, and this will be where you manage the driver, where you manage all your hardware settings. Okay. So right now I'm using an Audient Evo 8, which looks like this. Okay, so it has 4 inputs, 4 outputs. You might want to use this if you're deciding to record any live instruments like a guitar, or for example, I have my SM7B here, so you would need one of those if you're going to be recording using a microphone or instrument or something like that. If you are planning on just doing something simple like a podcast, you would also find you can change this audio system to something like Wave Out, which would allow you just to simply select your inputs and outputs. So if you want to just use your laptop, it would look something like that. Really simple one to use if you don't have a hardware dedicated one. And that'll also tell you your outputs and your sample rate and the block size. So this is like the quality you're recording in. So make sure it's in one of these industry recognized standards. So either 44,100 hertz is a standard, as well as 48,000 for video if you're planning on using the audio for video. And block size will also impact your recording quality. So if you are having performance issues, you can lower this to other values to make recording a little bit easier on your system. Also, if you're planning on using a MIDI device, such as a MIDI keyboard like this one here, you can enable that in the MIDI devices window down there as well. Okay. The only other thing that you might want to take a look at here is if you have any plugins that you've downloaded. So plugins are programs that will allow you to use virtual instruments or reverbs or EQ or anything that you want to use effects wise. You can download them and load them here. So you'll be able to take a look at, you'll tell Reaper where to look for those here whenever you've downloaded them, and you can rescan to upload your list inside Reaper. We'll talk about effects in a moment. Those are all the main features that you'll need to ensure are sort of present before you get started, depending on what you're planning on using this for. So the next thing we need to look at are the other main areas within the actual program Reaper itself. So up here, we're going to have the in-program toolbar here, which the two most important things you're going to need to know are snapping, which we'll talk about as we talk about tracks and editing, as well as, of course, a metronome. So when you're recording, you want to use a metronome to keep performances nice and tight and keep your musicians on time. So if you are creating music or you're recording someone playing music, you want to make sure you're using this to make your job of editing that much easier. Next, we have where tracks will appear. This is the track list here. So when we create tracks, we can right click down here and we'll have a bunch of different options. We're going to use two that are the most useful here. So we're going to insert a new track, or we're going to insert a virtual instrument on your track. So we'll talk about those in a moment, as well as we have the main timeline here. So this is where we're going to be able to select regions and keep everything organized. And on the bottom here, we have what's called the transport. So this transport bar here will have your playback, so you can go to the start or end of a recording. You can arm for recording. So usually when you open this, it'll just be on normal. I usually set this to time selection auto punch, so that way I will select a region on the timeline that will get recorded when I hit that button. Then we have the playback button. We have a loop button. So if we want to loop a section on the timeline, and we click this and we hit play, notice when it gets to the end of the highlighted section, it's going to jump right back to the start. So this is really good for recording multiple takes, or I use it all the time for practicing. We'll have the stop button, of course, the pause button, as well as we have controls for BPM here. So I've created markers on the timeline for different tempos, and you can gradually increase. So let's say I wanted to insert a new tempo marker here, and I wanted a gradual increase from 116, 117, 118, 121. That's really micromanaging tempo here, just to show you can change tempo and time signature easily here. You can enable that as well. So you can also navigate it here. You can slide up and down. It'll change the value in your marking as well, and you can change time signatures. So depending on your song, you can move between those, and the metronome will be updated and the track will be updated to show those segments. So next we'll go to talking about tracks. So when you create a brand new track, it's just a regular track comes in, it's bare. You can do with it what you want. When you want to arm a track for recording, you're going to press this little button here, and that's going to open up a couple more options. Most important thing you're going to want to know about is this one right here. This is your input. So this is going to be telling Reaper where to get the signal from. So if you're doing just mono, like a guitar or something, or an instrument, you'll use that. Or you could, if it's a MIDI instrument like the keyboard, you'll click that there, okay? You have mute button, which will, of course, get rid of and mute that track. You also have solo, so that will isolate that track. So that's really useful as well. You can double click this bar here to rename it. So let's say this is guitar 1, and we can have that there, okay? What you can also do is, let's say you want to add a virtual instrument. Let's say you're using that keyboard, or you're just programming MIDI. You can insert a virtual instrument. So for this example, I'll put in my bass guitar. Okay, we have low key glass 2, let's say, and then that would act as a bass on that instrument. So if I were to have I put MIDI here, it'll play those as a bass. So you can have all kinds of different virtual instruments, and there's lots of available for free online as well. And you can have multiple recordings going at once, depending on what hardware, what connections you have. Also, you'll have different controls within the track. So on here, you'll have two knobs. One knob is for pan, so this will give you left and right, which is really useful for guitars. Of course, you want a left and a right copy of guitars. Then you have a volume knob, which will be important for mixing later on, but that'll get you a good level to start with. You can also automate these by pressing V to open up a new track, and if you press Control and click, you'll create new points. So you can automate the volume of this guitar. Let's say you want it to get quiet in this section here and then come back up. You can do that. You can also automate panning by pressing P and then again, while holding control, you can click this graph here. And now I have it going from center to left to right. Okay. So now that how you can automate panning and using envelopes. Okay, so that's what that's called, and that's what that will do. By pressing P and V, you can hide them on each track. P and V, P V, and you can have control that way. Okay. The next thing we'll talk about are effects. So we have a virtual instrument with an effect on it right now. But let's say you record some guitar and you want to add something to it. You can open the effects here. And Reaper comes with a whole bunch of built-in ones that are really quite good. Let's say you wanted to add delay to a voice or a guitar. You would click that and you can change the settings here. You can access different presets here and you can make your own, of course, in there to add whatever delay you might want. There are hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of different plugins to look at. So that's one of the big parts of audio production that you'll have to do more research on if you want to use that. The next part is if you have if you already have audio that you've recorded, you can also go to insert and you can go to MIDI item, or that'll be create a new MIDI item for let's say a MIDI track. Or if we want to insert media that we've already recorded, we can go to insert and media file. And then let's say I have this song I recorded a while ago. Let's say I wanted to add that guitar file there. Now it's a whole song. So let's say I don't want that much there. So now you can insert things and you can also trim them. So if I click this anywhere on this track, let's say I want to only go to this selected region, I just click S. And that splits this piece of audio into two different parts, and I can remove the item. So let's say I do a recording and I'm in here and there's a little tiny sound I don't like inside this file. I can unclick snapping and I can go really surgical with this. So let's say I really don't like this little part here. I can click the track, go back here, and I can click S. And then I can cut that tiny little part out if I don't like that little bit that's there, okay? You can also click and drag the edges to overlap and automatically crossfade with each other. So that means I got rid of that part and then blended them together. So that way it minimizes that, perhaps a weird sound or something like that. And you can grab the ends to do the same thing. You can also grab the top of a bar and you can lower its volume. You can't raise it, but you can lower it, okay? To raise it, we're going to go to the next part, which is the mixer. So once you've recorded some things, you set up some tracks, we can go to view and we can go to the mixer. So we'll see this mixer right here and we'll see all of our effects and everything like this. So when I hit play, we'll have something happening here. So when you have all these levels, whenever you're having playback, you're going to notice, the bar represents the volume. If you get red, that means it's peaking, means it's there's distortion happening, which sometimes you might want, but oftentimes you don't. So make sure that that's not happening, and you can adjust these faders to make sure it's staying under that level. You can also, when you're done all of that, and you put all your effects on, and you've adjusted your levels to how you like it, you can then get something called a loudness meter, which will sort of allow you to compare. This one's called Ulean Loudness Meter 2, and it's free. You can just hit play and it'll map it out. You just don't want this true peak max value to be over, to be red. That's the biggest key. Simplest terms I can give you right now. So you'd be able to adjust your volumes or the slider to get the value where you need it to be, or use limiters and maximizers and compressors and all those different types of effects to be able to get your that mastering that you want, that loudness that you want. Mixing and mastering is much more complicated than that, and outside the scope of this video, but definitely do some more research when you get to that stage in your audio production journey. The next thing that you're going to need to know is how to once you've done all that recording, you've adjusted all your levels and everything, you want to export it. You want to render your file. So again, what I would do is I'd select whatever I want recorded on the timeline, and then I'll go to File and Render. So when I render, it's gonna open up where you selected everything to go. The bounds might be set to entire project, but I'd recommend setting it to time selection so you can control what's actually being exported. And then you have all your sample rate. That should be completely fine. And you will name your file. So if it's like, podcast 3 or podcast, 1, or Matt podcast, whatever you want the file name to actually be, you'll type there, and then you'll change the format. So if it's a final file you want to export for like Spotify or something like that, you might want to export it as a WAV. If you're just sharing it, as an assignment or between friends or a demo or something, I would click MP3. And you can click maximum bitrate quality, or you can change that as you want. I usually just leave it as it is, and that would render. So you'll just click render at this point, and if everything's set correctly, it should just print out exactly what you put. So that would be the part of the file that we exported. You'd be able to show it in Explorer, so find the file, or you'd be able to play it right away. And with that, that is pretty much everything you really need to know to complete assignments, to make podcasts, and to get started creating your own music within Reaper. Very powerful, versatile DAW. And once you know Reaper and you're comfortable with that, a lot of these skills translate to all other kinds of digital audio workstations that you might work with. And I think that's it for now. Happy recording, and check back in for more videos.